Dixie here. Today I want to tell you about some of the most commonly lost gear items on trail and some tips to help prevent you, hopefully, from doing the same. The first gear item that is commonly lost out on trail that I want to mention is tent stakes. I feel like almost every trip I go on, I come back with 1 or 2 tent stakes less than what I started with. It's easy to do because I feel like when you break your shelter down and my tent is now floppy and no longer taut, then as I'm rustling it around and trying to pull tent stakes up, the loops on the end of the lines slip off of the top of the stakes, and so it's easy to not realize that you haven't grabbed all of them up, or even if you do realize, sometimes you can't find them with your eyeballs. So a tip for making tent stakes stand out a little bit more, whether they're lying on the ground or still stabbed into the ground, take some thin cordage that's brightly colored and even reflective if possible, and loop it through any holes on top of your tent stakes. So the MSR mini groundhogs that I use, oftentimes they're red, but I swear still sometimes they will blend in. So having some really brightly colored, like neon cord hanging out of it instead of the red, I feel like could help it stand out more. I say reflective on the cord because that way if you're an early riser and you're packing up before the sun comes up, you're still in the dark, hopefully with the light of your headlamp reflecting off of that cord, the stakes will be easier to spot. And for the ultralight hook style stakes, you could paint the head of those, the hook part, a more bright color, and maybe that would help them stand out. I don't know how quickly that will wear off, but I guess you don't know till you try. And then of course there's the old give it a count before you pack up your stakes. Know how many you use to set up, know how many you are packing up, and also worst case scenario, bring an extra 1 to 2. That way, even if you do misplace one along the way, you've got enough to get you through to your last day of your trip, or till you can get to town if you're on a thru hike. Gloves. I have lost several pairs, or really not the whole pair, but a single sun glove, but this could also relate to gloves to help keep your hands warm. And I feel like this typically happens because people just shove a glove into their pocket and it falls out along the way. It's easy for them to work themselves out. So having pants pockets, for example, if you're buying a new pair of hiking pants or shorts, having zipper pockets, or making sure that you put the glove into some sort of pocket that actually closes, whether that's zipping up, buttoning up, whatever, but that way it can't just work itself out and flop out onto the ground. The next gear item I want to mention is hats. I have lost several of these along the way, and really in different ways, some just taking a break and leaving them there, but also I've heard of other people losing them the same way I have lost at least one of mine. And that's, you don't want to take your pack off while you're hiking. You know, you're in a groove, and the last thing you want to do is like stop and take your pack off and take your hat off and put it in your pack. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna take my hat off. What's an easy way to put it on my pack to where I don't have to take my pack off? Well, if you have smart water bottles on the side, especially one with the tall Sawyer squeeze sticking up, I've taken that loop part of my wide brimmed hat and hung it on that water bottle and then just kind of cinch it down. Well, if you go to pull your water bottle out and you don't think about the hat, or when I saw the bear on the Arizona trail by the river, I just kind of quickly left, and in my throwing my pack down and picking it back up and having my hat hanging there, it came off of that water bottle and was gone. So my tip to prevent losing your hat in that way is to make it easy to affix it to your pack, like actually attached. So my recommendation is getting a mini carabiner. You can get these from Z-Packs. That's where I've purchased them before, but I'm sure you can get them a lot of places. So have that dangling on wherever you want to hook your hat, whether that's on a bungee cord on a side pocket or your shoulder strap, whatever. Have that hanging there already, and then you can attach your hat, whether that's a ball cap and you attach it where the hole is on the back, where that little adjustment strap is, or a wide brimmed hat, the little cinching cord, attach it by that, but that way it's actually attached to the pack, and it's going to take a lot to break that carabiner versus just slip off a water bottle. Sunglasses. I have also lost quite a few pair of these. Thankfully, they were like the cheap $5 Dollar General specials. But after I got some nice sunglasses, I decided I don't want to be losing expensive sunglasses on trail. So I got a little pouch that actually hooks to my pack. It's like a soft sunglasses case, and I've told myself if I'm taking these sunglasses off, they are going in this case where I can't lose them, or they will go into a little protective sleeve and then go inside my fanny pack. But I will not hang them on my sternum strap. I will not put them on my hat on my head. I have still done that, and then they fall off and get scratched. But anyway, so the best course of action to not lose your sunglasses is when they come off of you, you put them in a thing that is attached to your pack or protected inside a fanny pack or pack. Just where I left them. Trekking poles. There's potentially no worse feeling as far as lost gear goes on trail than getting a mile or so down trail from your last break spot or camp and realizing, oh, I left my trekking poles, especially when you have a shelter that sets up using trekking poles. So the way that I typically end up leaving behind my trekking poles is I'm leaving camp or a break spot and I'm eating a snack while walking. Like I start walking away from the break point or campsite with a snack in my hands. So my hands are busy. And then when I finish my snack and I put away my trash, I'm like, suddenly I don't have anything to do with my hands. And then I realized that my trekking poles got left behind. So I guess the best plan here, best tip for not forgetting your trekking poles is don't walk and eat. Just sit down and enjoy your snack. And at the end of the day, the 10 potential minutes longer that you're going to spend enjoying your snack and looking at the scenery is a lot less than backtracking to get your trekking poles. It'll save you the frustration. And like at the end of the day, if you spend 10 more minutes on trail, most of the time I'm not hiking anyway, so 10 more minutes not hiking is not that big of a deal. And it's a safety hazard anyway, because I have impaled myself before. I was texting, not snacking, but same idea. If you have your trekking poles tucked under your arm while you're using your hands for other stuff and you trip, then those can fly out in front of you and hit you in the chest. It's a crazy thing that it happened like that, but it can happen. It's just best to use your trekking poles while you're walking and sit while you eat. Next piece of gear that goes missing often is a ladder. And I think that for me, how it happens, I keep my ladder in my food pot during the day while I'm hiking, along with my stove and fuel can and bandana. And so when I cook and I use my ladder, I can't just immediately put it back where it goes because my pot is being used. So I just lay it down somewhere random and then I'm looking around for it, and I have a black ladder, so it's hard to find. So the first tip would be have a bright colored ladder so it's easy to spot. Second tip would be always put your ladder, when you're using your food pot, if you do the same as me and store it there, always put the ladder in the same place, whether that's your pocket, whether that's a pocket on your pack. Just have a designated place for when you're cooking and you're using your ladder or you're building a campfire or whatever, that the ladder goes in the same spot every time, and then you'll know where it is. Next, headlamps. I have actually never lost my headlamp on trail, but I think I understand how it goes down. They have it in an easy to access pocket, so if they have to night hike or if they're hiking early in the morning, it's somewhere that they just stash it when they get done hiking. And so they go to get something else out of that pocket, maybe a hip belt pocket, and it falls out and it's gone. So what I do is when I pack up camp in the morning, it's daylight for me given, but I'll get into if it's not for you. I put my headlamp in my electronics bag. Now this oftentimes is just a big gallon Ziploc or a stuffed sack or whatever, but it lives in there throughout the day. And then if I know I'm going to end up night hiking or getting to camp right at dark and want quick access to my headlamp, then my last break that I take before it's going to start getting dark, I go ahead and pull out my headlamp and I put it around my head and I wear it like a necklace, like I pull it down around my neck. Then when it's time to use it, I pull it up and turn it on. And back it goes into my electronics bag when I pack up in the morning after camping all night. Now, if you're somebody who wakes up early enough that you're going to be walking into the dark, well then obviously you're going to start with your headlamp on. when it's time for the headlamp to come off, obviously you may not want to pull off your pack and put it right away. Just go ahead and slide it down around your neck until you take your first break of the day, and then put it in your electronics bag. The same bag that you store things like charger cords or battery banks. You know, I figure most people have those in a little bag that's waterproof. So that's my suggestion. So those are the most commonly lost items. However, any item can certainly be lost on a backpacking trip. So I want to talk about some general tips to just kind of help prevent gear loss in general. First, if you think you've lost something, check under your pack liner. There have been times where I thought something was just gone, and then months later after I pull my pack liner out, I find whatever it is up under that. I've lost tent stakes up under my pack liner. I've had a whole toiletries bag under there, so it's easy for things to get slipped up under there and be lost. Another tip, do a dummy check before you leave camp or a break spot, and that's simply, you got everything packed up, you're about to walk away with your trekking poles in your hands, and you turn around and look at the spot and make sure that you haven't been a dummy and left something laying there. That has saved me multiple times. Be organized. I know this one's kind of annoying, but for real, if you have a spot for everything in your pack, everything has its place, then that really will help you keep up with things, because as you're packing stuff, you'll be like, wait a second, the flux capacitor goes on top of the, whatever. And so having things in a certain spot, it just helps keep things organized and keeps it from, disappearing. And finally, if you're an early riser, I had a trail angel tell me the way that he keeps track of things, because it can be hard to see everything in the dark as you're packing up, and something can flop out of your tent and you didn't pick it up in your headlamp and now it's gone. He gets reflective stickers and puts on all of his gear that can possibly have a sticker on it, like on both sides. So that way he just shines his headlamp around camp, makes sure he doesn't see anything glowing in the light, and that's another redundancy to help prevent you from losing stuff. All right, y'all. Well, that is all I have for you today on commonly lost gear and hopefully some ways to prevent it. If you have any suggestions on how you've mitigated your gear loss along the way, I know a lot of us have learned the hard way, then please feel free to share that in the comments below. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you found this video useful, don't forget to share it with a friend, and we will see y'all next time.